The whistleblower released a statement on Thursday writing, quote, "Our client is legally entitled to anonymity. Disclosure of the name of any person who may be suspected to be the whistleblower places that individual and their family in great physical danger." The same law firm also said the media has a responsibility to avoid disclosing the whistleblower's identity. This is a topic, though, that's going to keep coming up this week as well as the impeachment inquiry moves forward.
And more closed-door depositions are scheduled this week for 3 House committees leading the impeachment inquiry. Fox's Jared Halpern.
A senior director at the Energy Department and a White House Budget Office associate director are both on the witness list this week for closed-door testimony. The House approved rules for open impeachment hearings last week, though Democratic leaders don't expect those to begin until later this month. Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff is expected to begin releasing transcripts of closed-door testimony possibly later this week. Republicans have criticized Schiff and other Democrats for what they call secret hearings in the Capitol. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Starting on Monday, President Trump can withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement.
The landmark deal was negotiated in 2015 and it took effect in November 2016. Nearly 200 nations set their own targets for reducing or controlling pollution. Under the deal, no country can withdraw in the first 3 years, so Monday is the first time the U.S. can actually start the withdrawal process. It starts with a letter to the United Nations, but even then, it wouldn't become official until the day after the 2020 presidential election. Marcus White, Fox News.
America is listening to Fox News.
When you think about better water, think Kinetico softened water. Kinetico water conditioners work like no other, supplying a continuous flow of luxuriously soft water without disruption and without use of electricity. After all, better water flows from better thinking. Kinetico.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water. Call American Water Tech at 649-2301 or email info@americanwatertech.com.
Did you know that home loan rates have plunged again? Would you like to take advantage of these lower rates to help lower your monthly payments? Refinancing doesn't have to be for another 30 years. It can be for 10, 15, or 20 years. It's up to you. Reduce your monthly payments. Pay off your loan earlier. At Bank Pacific, where we're open to closing your loan in a hurry.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Credit conditions apply.
The protests appear to be getting more violent in Hong Kong. A knife-wielding man slashed several people and bit off part of the ear of a pro-democracy politician in Hong Kong. A crowd was later seen attacking the attacker on TV footage. Funeral services on Monday for longtime Democratic Congressman John Conyers. Conyers died at age 90 in his Detroit home last month. Former President Bill Clinton and civil rights activist Reverend Jesse Jackson are expected to attend services. Faster boarding at one of Europe's busiest airports. Fox's Simon Owen has that story.
London's Gatwick Airport saying it's starting a series of tests aimed at cutting the time it takes to get passengers from the departure gate to their airplane seat. The airport predicting that a greater focus on boarding sequences could save a few minutes and make the process more relaxing. Trials include starting at the back of the plane and with passengers in window seats going first, those in the middle next, and aisle seats left till last. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
Rage Against the Machine is back together for a series of shows in 2020. Fox's Michelle Polino reports.
Christmas comes early for Rage Against the Machine fans as the band announced a series of dates for 2020, including a stop at Coachella. The band hasn't played together since 2011. 3 of the band members teamed up with Public Enemy's Chuck D and Cypress Hill's Be Real for Prophets of Rage. At the time, guitarist Tom Morello and others in the band expressed publicly that they were forming in response to the 2016 election. The band, noted socialists, together since 1991, first reunited in 2007, a year before the 2008 election. So this timing, a year before the 2020 election, seems to fall right in line. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
And I'm Jessica Stone, Fox News.
Hulu
Hulu is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to Tall Tales for Monday, November 4th, 2019. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back just around the time of Thanksgiving, so about 3 weeks from now. And so thank you very much for tuning in. Do continue to tune in, and we'll go over what it is that we see in the news and talk about what's going on around the community that concerns you. And we've had a long, quiet weekend, haven't we? Since Halloween and then All Souls Day, and not a lot of political, even with the session ending, not a lot of discussion until today. It's all started back up again. And so if you've got something on your mind, by all means, call 888-8255, or you can find us on Facebook Live. Thank you very much for I already see James Howard's first place today. And Gus Castro Hasangas says half a day. And James Howard says, I wonder if Snob K is watching. Well, you know, whoever that might be, I do hope so, too. Or he could be watching afterwards, because you can retrieve the shows and watch them at your leisure on Facebook Live. And then I saw something else pop up. It didn't show up on the messages. So we will go ahead and get straight. We don't have anything for Second Amendment again today. We're kind of expecting some news to come out soon, but perhaps no news is good news. So we'll leave it at that and go straight to Zami Katni. And as usual, on a Monday, we've got an overflowing of editorials to choose from the two major daily newspapers here on Guam for editorials. But I've got, let's see, 2 from the Post and 2 from PDN for the weekend. And today's PDN editorial is Growing Spiritually. Bumpy Flight Puts Things in Perspective. And this is by Catherine Jean Lopez, writing for the National Review and appearing on page 16 of the Pacific Daily News today. Another national column that I find interesting, but it's not what we are here to talk about in local matters here on Tall Tales, only having 2 hours. So we'll set that aside as long as you know it's there. Growing Spiritually and Bumpy Flights, something that we're used to out here in the Pacific, because we do have to take flights often, and frequently, at least part of the time, they're bumpy. So the Post editorial for today is "Senators' Selective Criticism Seems Insincere," and we'll go through that in a moment in case you did not read that yet. The PDN editorial from yesterday is "DOE Control Isn't Ideal." We'll take a look at that. And then also the Guam Daily Post editorial from yesterday, Sunday, the editorial "Kudos to Robotics Team. We must do more to support students." So that's what we've got on our plate for Zami Ikatni. Let's go ahead and get started. Today's Guam Daily Post editorial: Senators' selective criticism seems insincere. We don't blame some members of the public for disregarding some statements elected officials make that claim to represent our community's collective voice. Okay. We don't blame some members of the public for disregarding some statements elected officials make that claim to represent our community's collective voice. Besides the self-promotional aspect, with some of these statements, certain elected officials have taken public policy positions that don't represent the general interest of the public and instead cater to a vocal minority. It is important that we, the public, pay attention so we don't make the same mistake of electing officials who promise us one thing and turn their backs on us the minute they're on the government payroll. Certain officials have made irresponsible statements that don't speak for many who need Guam's two-legged tourism and defense-based economy to stay strong, who need the vast majority of Guam's jobs sustained, and who need our nation to keep its vigilance and security tight. Let's take first-time Senator Sabina Perez's recent move as an example. Perez recently wrote to a U.S. congressional committee asking, quote, for a hold on federal funds earmarked in the 2020 National Defense Authorization Act for the construction of the fifth and largest of the firing ranges at Northwest Field on Guam, end quote. Perez makes statements on behalf of our entire community, even though overall public sentiment doesn't jibe with what she's saying. Perez wrote to members of the Natural Resources Committee in the House of Representatives and to members of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee in the Senate. She asked that, quote, Congress provide comprehensive oversight to include four key areas: excessive federal spending, cumulative impacts to the environment, threats to endangered species, and sufficient historic preservation, end quote, on Guam. Quote, the bulldozing of sacred sites has begun, Perez claims, adding, quote, and they ignore our governor and our legislature when we demand they stop. All of a sudden, a local senator has presented herself as one who cares about, quote, excessive federal funding, which could be nothing more than an attempt to evoke action in a Congress mindful of spending federal tax dollars to stop the flow of military funding to Guam for a critical project. Just a few days before Perez called for the halt of funds for the firing range, which is to support the readiness of the Marines who will live and work on a future base on Guam, the commander of the island's Joint Military Leadership, Rear Admiral John Minoni, mentioned that the military of today is no longer the military from decades ago that bulldozed areas of construction without regard for cultural or environmental concerns. Minoni said every time cultural or historical artifacts are found in an area of the construction, the military pauses and cordons off that part of the construction, and archaeologists for the local government and the military are brought in to consult on the proper handling of the discoveries. Guam senators and the governor have been given field trips to the site. Minoni also mentioned that the military has spent close to $100 million over the past 5 years for environmental and cultural concerns on Guam. The federal government isn't the environmental bad guy on Guam. Adjacent to the firing range project site, plants and animals at the Guam National Wildlife Refuge at Retidian have been protected, and it has become a nesting haven for green sea turtles and a rare Guam tree species simply because it is a federally protected refuge. Some of the preservation efforts have been paid in part by the military. Retidian as a federally protected refuge, has been kept clean and free of illegally dumped trash because federal rules and laws are enforced there. Activists and the island senators aligned with them have raised their protests against military projects, despite the existence of and for federal environmental regulatory compliance. Strangely, these same critics stay quiet when it comes to environmental trashing outside the bases. Outside of the controversial firing range site and outside of military bases on the island, acres and acres of trees are being bulldozed for private sector development, including subdivisions in Jigo and Dedido. On these developments, there has been no outcry from the activists and senators. Senators proudly attend groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings for these private sector projects. Areas formerly within military fences that have been returned to the local government control have been literally trashed. If Perez and others were to be true champions of environmental and cultural concerns, the military can't just be their only target, while the literal trashing of the rest of the island outside of the military fences goes on every day and in many places. Staying silent on the same issues, when the military isn't involved, comes across as lacking sincerity. And that is Guam Daily Post editorial today. It doesn't reach for much, does it? I've got a caller on line 1, and I'll be right with you in a moment. This editorial doesn't reach very far. It states the facts, and there's no disputing these facts. One senator does not represent all of the legislature, and when those letters are written to go to people who are in a position to control the money that's being spent on Guam as investments, wherever those dollars come from. I'm not saying that dollars don't come with any kinds of strings or a downside, but wherever those dollars come from, our economy is sustained and our people are sustained in ways that the senators in particular are less than fully mindful, because they don't seem to be able to do their part to use those monies as an engine for local growth. And it's true, large areas are bulldozed, and we hear nothing about the recovery of culturally important plants or archaeological details from those tracks. And we are there's more development going on off base than there is on base, and so I am happy that this came through. Although they don't reach very far. The title and the bottom line, it's not very. They don't reach very far. Oh, this seems insincere. It's a pretty weak position to take. They should be actually demanding that the senators require our zoning laws and our state historic preservation officer to be active in the review of permitting for the clearing and grading of areas of land. And just take, for example, the down in Inarahan, the Iha subdivision. One of the reasons that the Iha subdivision has not been developed is because it's dotted with latte stones. That's one of the problems. The other problem was that the roads don't seem to match the terrain. The roads, it would take so much grading and filling and drainage problems and whatnot that would result if it was, and this is in the past, it's been redrawn a number of times, and that it caused a third problem, which is you start giving out pieces of land and then you redraw the lots, and then it's just confusing over 25 or 30 years as to who's going to get what. So as much as I want to give a star to this editorial, but they don't seem to reach very far. They have a great topic and they're in the right spot, they're in the right orientation, but then they just kind of weakly, So I'm going to set this aside, but thank you very much, Guam Daily Post, for your effort. Line 1, welcome to Tall Tales. Oh, you're just in time. You're just in time. That hits for you.
About for Saturday, All Souls Day at Veterans Cemetery
Yes.
in PD. They didn't open the gate. You have to walk in.
Well, that never bothered me before, but I could see why it would bother some people greatly. My mom's down there, and that place, I didn't make it to the mass. Oh, because I can walk.
What about people that are monocle, disabled, and all those people? How are they going to walk from the front gate to where they want to go to?
I agree. I agree. They should have transportation to help people who are having difficulty moving.
That's it.
But the problem is if they open the gates, then people drive in and park, and then nobody gets through.
Well, think about that. There's no private transportation for the people from the front gate to where they want to go.
That part should be addressed. Absolutely. It's hard for me to walk up the hill to the crypts on the top. It's hard.
That's it. But the guy sitting there in the aircon vehicle watching people walk by, come on, guy. That's not a Chamorro culture.
No.
Sit there and idle and look pretty, you know. We assist and aid, you know, monocle or whoever needs help, you know. We don't sit in the aircon and look at people who are passing by, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that's now under the management of the governor's office, right?
No,
So-
but what I understand is retired Fred Badai is in charge down there, and where is he at? Because he can witness and see these people walking from the bottom of the hill to the top. Come on, guy. That's not our culture, man.
He should have been there. That's his. That was his working day.
Yeah,
you know, those are his crew that's working that day, managing it, and also planning for it. If they're going to close the gates, I can understand they let people in to bring their car in and go back out and park outside. It's even a problem if it's the person who's driving is the one that can only walk a short distance. That's a problem, but they should be addressing that problem in advance and giving everyone notice in advance.
No, but there's no organization as to transportation from the bottom of the hill to where you want to go. You know, that's the problem. You know, because they used to have golf cart, everything before 2 years ago. They used to have able transportation to, you know, provide for people to transport them from the bottom of the hill to where you want to go, but nothing.
You know, even for them to go and solicit for some kind of a low-rise platform where you could transport people, you know, load them up and then drive a route.
They used to have it for nothing now, you know. And the guy was scolding me because I drove my truck to the other side and I drove myself on top, you know, and he was yelling at me and scolding me that what I was doing is illegal. Like, call the cops, call the policeman. Because when the policeman come here, I'm going to charge you monocle abuse. I'm going to charge you for speed abuse because I'm a senior citizen and you want to walk from the bottom of the hill to the top. Come on, guy. Bring the cop here, and I'm the one going to charge you for monocle abuse. And see where we stand.
You know, even that is a particularly unique area because local management, but it's also according to federal rules, you know, for that activity. But it's under local management because it's supposed to be local solution to local problem that we know we're going to have if you close it.
What if disabled workers come in there to the front gate and you're not providing transportation for disabled workers? What are you supposed to do?
They should have also made provision for disabled. They should be able to count. They should know from the numbers of people who come. And if Fred was there, he could be doing his own counting. Or he could have assigned a staff member to do that, keep track.
And then solve the problem there and there. It won't take long because if it was there from the beginning when they first opened the gate and when there's people walking around, hey, this don't look right, we got to provide transportation. So go up to Car Plus or whatever, they got vehicles and bring it down, you know what I'm saying? But
just like the parade. Just like at the
planning at all.
Can I ask you a question? I don't want you to tell me how you voted in the last election, but I wanted to ask you whether you chose the candidates that you voted for based on either you want the same old, or you want better.
No, the reason why I don't vote because now it's no longer Republican or Democrat. it's repeated again, and the same old demo crap. That's why I don't vote. You know, I'm showing again.
That's why you need to vote.
Happening.
Next time you need to register and vote. And vote for...
Oh, I do register to vote, but the reason why I don't vote, I'm looking for a new face. You know what I'm looking for? Not the same happening people that's always running, you know. And look what happened. It backfired. They tried new face, and what happened? It backfired.
Yeah. You know, we all thought things would be better because of a good quality choice, you know. But we're here. It is 1 year, and we're still looking.
Messed everything up because the Republican there for 8 years or more than 12 years, and now it's time for it to go back to the Democrat. But look what happened. It backfired because look what happened now. You know, first thing happened, they raised the tax. Everything tax they raised, you know.
Well, the tax was raised already before, but it was supposed to be rolled back in this term. This year they were supposed to roll it back, and then on the in the spring, and then in the summer when they're doing the budget, they're supposed to be planning for without having that tax available to them. They're supposed to work on the government of Guam to streamline it.
Well,
and nothing happened.
Nothing happened. And in fact, the government dug into more depths their own grave, you know.
Yeah. Now, if we saw...
What they do is they go float the bond. Like, what's they going to float the bond, solve the problem? Just make the Guam to go to debt, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a comment on Ray Gibson's show this morning about why make plans for something that's 45 years in the future. But yes, we're supposed to be making a community that is going to be strong 45 years from now. That's what we're supposed to do, not make it weak or make it mortgaged so that we spend all the money today, but they're going to pay for it for the next 25, 30 years, you know?
Well, two of the people they hired for loose staff was two ex-Democrat people, and they've been there for decades, and nothing happened when they were in the office, you know?
Yeah.
Gutierrez, how many times Gutierrez was a governor of Guam and nothing happened? Then you got former Congressman Badayo been in the office for decades and still nothing happened. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Then you're going to pay them for this, for that. Like, why are you going to pay them when there's nothing happening when they're sitting in the office for how many years? You say?
Well, we think that they're going to. At the time when they were appointed to those offices, we're thinking, well, it's a good thing because now they can do something else but still be involved. But we have to see results. It's not just happy to have them. I'm not just happy that they have a job. I want to be happy because they're getting something done.
Well, one of the things that's happening right now, backfiring, is the war claims for the Manunco. That backfired because they keep on saying, oh, their money's your money is coming, but there's no hope for that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's our own money.
Yep.
You know, if we're going to be the ones spending the money, if it's coming out of our pocket, then why didn't we just go ahead and spend it 10 years ago when more people were alive?
No, but my mom's part of the war claim, but we cannot, our own generation cannot go make claim because once the person pass away, that's it, the claims ends. You can't claim for your parents.
That's
once
right.
they're deceased, that's it. It's over.
But you know, but now that we're the ones paying it, why is it that we are out of our Section 30, out of our Section 30 money?
No, but who's going to get the money? Your money that your mom and dad was waiting for, and they passed away. So who's going to get the money now?
No, that's right. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, but who's going to get it? Because they stated that once your parents deceased, that's it.
That's
End
right.
of claim.
That's right.
So who's going to get the money?
Just go back to Gov Guam.
That's it. But why are you going to go back to Guam when they're waiting for decades for that money? You know?
Yeah, I know. My mom went through the same thing.
Yeah, no, my mom started since Catherine Barr was a senator.
Yeah,
That's how long she was waiting. And
I
then
know.
how many Wampat won for Congress? How many times? Then Badayo went in there. How many times he won? And still no result. You know?
Well, we never did get the.
Find out who's going to get the money. Go straight to government. Whoa, that's Bob's idea.
No, but it's the money that was. The feds never put up any money. They said, sure, we'll pay your claims out of your money, out of the money that you're supposed to be collecting from the Treasury for the taxes that we collected on Guam ourselves. So we'll take it out of that.
They said all the money tax, the service people, they got the money back from the service people that has been paying tax in the States. They got the money back from them.
That's right, the Section 30 money.
That's it, but where's the money?
Oh, the federal government's holding it now.
And that's what I said. Where's the money? You know?
Yeah, well, and the legislature and the governor are still playing around with the idea.
And there's no hope then. There's no hope.
There's always hope.
There's no hope.
There's always hope. I don't want to argue with it, but there's always hope.
There's no hope. How many decades they've been waiting, and now the uncles are passing away, so there's no hope. That's it. You know?
Well, let's, yeah, there's a comment on Facebook Live. That was the plan all along, guys. It's how government does it. Just business, guys, nothing personal. Thank you very much for your call today. I appreciate talking with you. It's 4:31 and time for us to take a break here. We'll come right back with more Tall Tales and your comments on Facebook.
If you've ever struggled for breath, you know what a scary experience it is. Whether you have asthma, emphysema, COPD, lung cancer, or another respiratory illness, the right medical treatment makes all the difference. GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic has the latest technology and respiratory equipment, staffed by world-class pulmonologists. Make an appointment today with GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic and start breathing easier. GRMC, where patients are partners.
2,000 years ago, a Roman philosopher laid down a harsh indictment on the decisions people make with their most precious of resources, and it should have ushered in the time management revolution then. Apparently, it didn't. I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll talk about why we're still getting it wrong.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Thank you once again to the callers just called up this afternoon, first one out of the blocks, and telling us about how well All Souls Day went at Veterans Cemetery this past Saturday. Normally I would go there, but today, this year, I was watching my dad and couldn't take him out in the heat. He hasn't been able to attend Mass down there for years. But, and then I couldn't go. I was watching him, and we didn't want to get out in the heat. So we went down there later on afterwards, and the gates were still locked at 5 o'clock. So, yeah, and I couldn't drive him in. And, yeah, that is the service of the Veterans Office on All Souls Day at Veterans Cemetery. And let's see. Oh, that's what it is. Bob K. I wonder if Bob K. is watching. James Howard is asking. And if not, then he would be taking a look at the Facebook comments, Facebook Live comments. If not, he'll watch this show as is convenient as a replay on Facebook. So James Howard again asks, can we talk about the Patriot Act and how the amendments to this is covertly taking away our Second Amendment rights? There are a number of rights that were taken away by the Patriot Act. People have complained about the Patriot Act for many years because it extended the intrusiveness of government, not just Second Amendment, but other parts of the Constitution. So let me take a look at this. That's a good idea for a future show. And also it's a good idea that perhaps Bob will come back and talk some about that as he returns. James Howard continues, boo, lame, I agree. And then Gus Castro Yasangas says, I don't think they understand the word sustainable from retrievable. Sustainable. Then James says, slap him, Nye. And then Margaret Blas says, Buenos Daryl and teams and Atungosia. It's again my listening pleasure this Sunday evening here in OC, California. And you're not being smoked out. You don't have any dengue carrying mosquitoes at this time of the year, but California, it's starting to get cool, and you're starting to get some breeze. Yeah. James Howard says, I voted for Hillary. So you didn't vote locally? Or, we had a straw poll. We did have a straw poll. And that's why I always wondered why we would expect that President Trump would look kindly upon the territory of Guam, since in the straw poll it was so heavily against him. And Jose Martinez continues. He says, if you don't vote, then you already made a choice. I choose to remain silent. And I've got a caller, but let's go ahead through these comments first. Jose Martinez continues. The recent election was about identity politics. None were qualifications for leadership, nor lawmaking. Well, hopefully some of them were. And it's almost like, well, whoever puts themselves up for election and they qualify, then that's the choice we get. And then those who are elected by those who show up to vote, that's what we get for government. So that's what we deserve. If other people who are capable are not going to run, and voters who are concerned do not show up to the polls, and we let the organizations that are backing slates of candidates get away with their games, then that's what we have for a government over the next couple of years. It's just how it is. And then Gus Jasanga says, laughing out loud, no vote, no say nothing. You can't satisfy everyone, Dalai. And then James Howard says, that was the plan all along, guys. That's how the government does it. Just business, guys, nothing personal. And Gus agrees, and that's the truth. Ishmael Velez is with us this afternoon. He says they are just passing the buck. Planning for so far in the future is inconsiderate of the present. We hurt now, we will hurt more tomorrow. A lesson learned is that priorities change with each change in leadership. It's true. And priorities change anyway. Excuse me there. And then Gus says, indeed, it's a lesson learned. Hence, don't repeat it. Make the change. Ken Leon Guerrero says, seems like the Veterans Office is more concerned about employees than veterans and their families. Yeah. James says, Daryl is awesome. Well, thank you. I see Mike McCarthy has joined us as well on Facebook Live. Thank you very much, all of you who have joined us this afternoon. And we'll continue with Zami Ikani. But first, let's see who's on line one. Behind the door, line one. Is that our Carl?
Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Carl.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm glad you called early in the show.
Oh, yeah. I have a tendency to call in the last few minutes. I don't know what that is.
I remember you were doing that quite often with Bob.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just have a tendency to get excited about something toward the end of a show, and maybe that says something about my personality. I don't know.
So what happened today?
Well, I just wanted to chime in regarding the issue of now the word slips my mind. You know, the
sustainability?
What's that?
Sustainability? You want me to toss a few out?
For people, survivors of the war claims. The war claims.
Yes.
act. But my mother was here during the war, as were many of her siblings. I think it was 7 or 8 siblings. She was from a big family. There's only 2 living now. My mom passed away, all her siblings except one sister, one brother. And I remember filling out some paperwork for her for the war claims. And my remaining auntie and uncle have both filled out paperwork, and I'm hoping that gets resolved. But I think it's helpful to put it in perspective, the war claims issue, that whoever does get payment would really be in a small minority for the damage done during World War II. There were over 70 million people killed across Asia, Europe, and the Pacific. Trillions and trillions of dollars in damage done. Many families completely wiped out. It was the worst catastrophe in human history. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pursue it. The people that went through it, they had, like my mom. I mean, if my mom was alive and she wanted me to fill out whatever paperwork, I'd do whatever she wanted me to do. She went through it, and she needs to resolve it or deal with it in whatever way that she sees fit. So I'd do whatever she wanted me to do if she was alive. Unfortunately, she passed, and I didn't go through it, so I have no interest in it. But for the survivors, I'm hopeful that it does get resolved, mostly so that we can move on to other things and finally, end this chapter and move on to many, many other big issues we have to face. But I just wanted to introduce that thought about putting the war claims in perspective. Very few people got any kind of reimbursement for damage done to them. Their lives were destroyed in many cases. Family members just wiped out. The worst was, of course, the Jews. The concentration camps, over 6 million Jews. Total over 70 million people killed during the war. It was just horrific. It was terrible. But I'm hopeful that it does finally get answered. I hope Delegate St. Nicholas is successful in getting it completed. I would be happy for whoever of the survivors does see something come of it, and hopefully we can then move on.
Yeah. This is. Yeah, hopefully it's taken a long time, and you're right. This is and even the other caller was right about how this has been going on since way back, during Mr. Wampat's time in Congress, that the war claims have been pursued, and the way that I understand it is that there was a procedure that was made available to the people of Guam to file claims immediately after the war, like in 1945-46 time frame. But at the time, of course, there were no street addresses. There were no homes that were being hurriedly built in places like Sinahanya and Agate were not set up with desks and mail delivery and whatnot. So people were being contacted to file claims under the American law that said, as long as you're within under the American flag, you cannot sue a foreign government, but you can put the claim to us, and because we, the federal government, we will settle the claims with foreign governments on the country's behalf and on your behalf, but you cannot claim directly against them, so claim against us. But with it was confusing to the people living here at the time. Some people did file. They understood the concept of filing a complaint against the United States. But many people did not understand the concept of filing a claim against the United States, because it was the Japanese that they were filing a claim about. And so they didn't fill out these forms and they only had a short time, 3 months or 6 months, something like that. And so few, and it was later on established in the 60s that these claims should have been filed. There should have been more assistance for the claims to be filled out properly, and the people of Guam didn't get a fair crack at the claims. And so in the 70s, because these claims were being made in Micronesia against Japan in the 60s and 70s, and so the people of Guam, U.S. citizens by then, reopened the whole idea of war reparations or war claims. And so a number of local leaders picked up the effort, to lead the effort, to register people and to get their stories told and filed so that they could be considered. But in Congress, they didn't want to take the responsibility for paying these claims. And so while they said that they were, and this is congressman after congressman after congressman, would have hearings on a bill, and people would leave Guam, go there, testify. And Congress just didn't see it sympathetically. Even at the time when the Japanese who were interned by the Roosevelt administration during the war years, even as they were recognized and they were given claims, the claims of the people of Guam were not recognized until Madeline Bordallo's time. But the deal that she made, she accepted the limitations put on those claims, that the claims would be paid out of our Section 30 revenues. So basically, all we did was spend 30 years pursuing this, or 40 years pursuing this, just to have, A, the claimants die, B, the federal government telling us that we have to whittle down the group that can file a claim, and for what, and then, oh, by the way, you pay for it yourself, but we'll be the ones to filter your applications. Now, under Mike St-Nicholas, he said he found that there was a problem with the bill that Madeline Bordallo got through the Congress. And personally, I don't think it was a mistake. I think she got that bill through a Republican Congress, but with a flaw. And the flaw should have been corrected with the change of leadership in Congress, so that the U.S. government would pay for it. Take out the Section 30 payment provision and have the U.S. government pay it for a very much smaller group. But Mike St-Nicholas said it was a technical matter that needed to be addressed, not seeing that there was an opportunity to have the federal government be the ones that would pay it and not take it out of our Section 30 money. And here we are today, still talking about it, and these people who survived the war and are still have made claims. Some of those claims are 40 years old, and they're still waiting. It's just a sad, sad chapter of our people.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I believe it was handled the way it was, as far as not allowing individuals to sue these countries that sparked this world war, Japan and Germany, is I think we learned our lesson from the end of World War I, where the Treaty of Versailles put tremendous weight on Germany, and I think it sowed the seeds. It made the ground fertile for people like Adolf Hitler to come in and blame all the economic problems that were going on the Jews. I think they did not want a repeat of the same thing to happen. Can you imagine the family of 70 million people killed suing Japan and Germany? I mean, they would never recover.
Yeah.
And one reason why there was this, the way the war ended for Japan is that America wanted complete surrender, total unconditional surrender, and Japan wasn't willing for that. They wanted to keep their weapons. And America did not want Germany or Japan to keep any of their weapons. They wanted a clean slate. As a matter of fact, America pumped quite a bit of money into Japan and Germany to help them get started, in a demilitarized way, little or no military, and just make them democratic societies, industrialized societies.
Yeah, without the burden of having to build a military.
There were reasons why it was handled the way it was. They weren't picking on Guam. I mean,
No, it was everybody.
Was treated that way. They were trying to get these two major countries back on their feet in a positive way, and it's worked. I mean, Japan and Germany have both become economic powerhouses and very positive forces in the world. But anyway, I just wanted to chime in and offer that, as a give a little bit of perspectives that we're not being picked on. There were over 70 million people killed, and most of them saw nothing come back in the way of reparations. There were some. I think some of the Jews got things that were property was stolen from them from the Germans over the course of several years. They were able to retrace and get some of that property back and money that was stolen by the Nazis. But a lot of people just ended up having to start over again with scraps,
And just thankfully they were alive.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I got 50 years with my mom. I feel thankful and blessed, for that. So I'm just thankful. But I hope the remaining survivors can see some positive results. I'd be very, very happy for them.
Well, thank you very much, Carl, for your call today and for lending that perspective to our discussion about the war claims.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's 9 minutes before 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, we'll enjoy what's going on in Fox News, and then we'll also have our halftime show. We'll be back after this break with some more Tall Tales.
Go green, go hybrid, go to Nanbo Insurance, and your next power bill is on us. Insure your hybrid car at Nanbo and get up to $350 towards your next power bill. That's instant savings for keeping our island clean and green. Nanbo has been providing Guam with over 50 years of reliable and affordable auto insurance. At Nanbo, it pays to go green. Terms and conditions apply. Visit nanbo.com or call 477-9754 for details.
Here's Bob in the traffic chopper. What's up, Bob?
Traffic is at a standstill right now with a guy standing in the middle of the street holding a sign. Let me zoom in. The sign says, "Free the fence."
What does that mean, Bob?
Not sure, but the guy's out there smiling and waving in short shorts with a weird-looking little hat. He's got a sign in one hand and what looks like, is it? What? It is. It's a bottle of beer in the other.
Oh, no. That's Ray.
Free the fences in your mind with The Ray Gibson Show. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on 93.3 The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. We were going through Zami Kotny, taking a look at the opinions of the two major daily newspapers here on Guam. And let's go on to the next one, which is the editorials from yesterday. DOE control isn't ideal. The headline for the PDN editorial yesterday, the Pacific Sunday News. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I mean, how important is it that to the general public about whether DOE knows how to handle interscholastic sports? It's admittedly, it is not an academic subject, and we're not, it's not like starting a charter school or trying to figure out how to remove discipline problem children from the schools and still provide them an education, a public education. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I am going to talk a little bit about this. As you know, the Guam Education Board voted earlier this year to withdraw from sports run by the Independent Interscholastic Athletic Association of Guam and have Guam DOE run its own separate leagues under the Interscholastic Sports Association. I mean, what is it? The same thing, right? Still talking about the same thing? Anyway, then in a release issued on October 28, DOE announced that it extended an invitation to the Interscholastic Association member schools to compete with the 6 public schools within its own association. And then it's like, what? They're just going to make a schedule again together. To get to the bottom of the article, I don't want to read the whole thing. One clear impact will be that competition will suffer, and that means student athletes at both public and private high schools will suffer. To become better, athletes and teams must face strong competition, must strive to beat last year's champ. With Guam DOE running its own leagues, that won't happen. What's important? What is important here? Is why is this happening at all? And who does it impact? It impacts, and somebody's doing this. Somebody's doing this on government time, messing with something that was probably needed to be fixed, but they broke it for good. They broke it for real, and then now they're trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, which can happen. But why is there this disruption? And this is a matter of accountability. Not because I in particular need to know this, but because these are being done in the name of the public, of you and me. These are not private employees. These are public agency employees who are involved in doing this. And they are accountable to the people, to you and me. So why this waste of time and why is this happening at all? Why are school sports being disrupted, and then they're going back on it and saying, we can just go ahead and ignore what we said earlier, or now that we have a different organization, we can put everything back together the way it was. Accountability of public employees and what they're doing on working time requires that the whole story on why this happened is revealed to the public, generally, as a story, sure, but in particular to the parents of the athletes. They're the public, and they are directly affected by the mishandling of this issue, and they deserve to know. And because this is being done by public officials, then they should be standing up and saying, why did this happen in the first place? The Guam Education Policy Board should explain it. How it is that they approved something like this. What was the justification? What was the problem? What was the big deal that they had to do this? I just, disrupt all the academic, the athletic plans. What are you going to do? Just take JFK and carve off the playing fields and then lease them out to somebody who would come in and maintain them and pay the cost of the utilities and to tend the field and then keep the money for something else in DOE? Just turn your back on sports programs altogether is not your problem? Is that the plan? Is that the overall strategy here? Really, come on, come clean. And it's not just the administrator, but the board. Because if you don't want to do sports anymore and you're looking to save money on that, then say so. Instead of having this weirdness going on. Anyway, I don't know if there's enough time here to. I should mention that. Sorry to say that there's a fellow who I've always respected since way back, and that is Joe Mesa, and he's passed away. And he's been a strong strategist and an advocate for Republican Party candidates over the years, as long as I've been involved, and longer than I've been involved, and I'm sorry to hear of his passing. I truly am. And Nissan Guam set the world record yesterday, and it's only a matter of sending in that documentation and making sure. So congratulations to Nissan Guam on that activity over the weekend. It's 4:59, and time to make room for Fox Radio News and our halftime show. I'll be here for the second half. We'll continue to take a look at what's going on in the news these days right here on Guam. So do stay tuned, and I'll see you on the other side.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Ramping up impeachment. I'm Jessica Stone, Fox News. House Democrats set to vote this week on a resolution to open public impeachment hearings in the Intel Committee. They also plan to publish the closed-door testimony they've gathered so far. New York Democratic Congressman Eliot Engel on ABC's This Week.
We have a constitutional responsibility as members of Congress. The president says that Article 2 of the Constitution allows him to do anything, but Congress is there to prevent the president from doing things that are illegal.
At the same time, some House Republicans, including Jim Jordan, who says on Fox's Sunday Morning Futures that the whistleblower who set the inquiry in motion should testify.
None of the rest of us get to know. More importantly, you and the press don't get to know. Most importantly, the American people don't get to know. We'd like to evaluate this guy's credibility, find out who he or she may have talked to form the basis of the complaint they filed with the Inspector General.
And the Trump administration pushing back on impeachment. Fox's Gernal Scott.
On Fox News Sunday, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, challenged the Democrats' closed-door depositions and says once the process is open, it will be deep into it.
Until the president's lawyers can actually cross-examine or present evidence or challenge evidence.
House Intelligence Committee member Terry Sewell of Alabama, a Democrat, said on NBC's Meet the Press she's not surprised by complaints from across the aisle.
I've seen my Republican colleagues twist themselves into a pretzel in order to defend the indefensible. I think this is about right and wrong.
President Trump says Democrats are pursuing impeachment because they can't win at the ballot box a year from now. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And in a Fox News poll, nearly half of voters surveyed say they want President Trump impeached and removed from office. According to that same poll, 6 in 10 believe the president did ask foreign leaders to investigate political opponents, and 2/3 say that action is inappropriate. America is listening to Fox News.
Did you know that home loan rates have plunged again? Would you like to take advantage of these lower rates to help lower your monthly payments? Refinancing doesn't have to be for another 30 years. It can be for 10, 15, or 20 years. It's up to you. Reduce your monthly payments. Pay off your loan earlier. At Bank Pacific, where we're open to closing your loan in a hurry.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Credit conditions apply.
I'm a working mom and could really use more hours in my day. Thankfully, my non-electric Kinetico water treatment system has simplified my life. It's easier to clean my home with Kinetico conditioned water. No more scrubbing tubs or wiping water spots. Cleaners work better and last longer. And all the Kinetico drinking water we want is right here. No more lugging home bottled water. All this, and I'm saving money too, thanks to Kinetico.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
A former New York City medical examiner says he does not think convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Fox's Brian Yennis has those details.
Renowned pathologist Dr. Michael Bodden said physical evidence suggests Jeffrey Epstein did not hang himself in his jail cell, but was instead murdered. Dr. Bodden said 3 fractures in Epstein's neck, in addition to hemorrhaging in his eyes and face, and the deep mark made by the ligature around the center of his neck suggests Epstein was strangled. Dr. Bodden, a Fox News contributor, was hired by Epstein's brother Mark to observe the autopsy. He's helped in several high-profile cases, including the Kennedy assassination and the O.J. Simpson trial, and was also the chief medical examiner of New York City. Still, other pathologists are skeptical. There's also millions of dollars potentially at stake. If Epstein's lawyers can make the case, he died in a homicide.
And a major shakeup at a top fast food restaurant known for inventing the Happy Meal. Fox's Paul Stevens with that.
McDonald's chief executive officer leaving the fast food giant after violating a company policy. The company saying now former president and CEO Steve Easterbrook demonstrated poor judgment by engaging in a consensual relationship with an employee. McDonald's forbids managers from having romantic relationships with employees. Easterbrook admitting to that relationship and saying it was a mistake. Details of a separation package being released on Monday. McDonald's board of directors naming McDonald's USA president Chris Kempczynski as its new president and CEO. Paul Stevens, Fox News.
Firefighters have confined 70% of the wildfire northwest of Los Angeles, known as the Maria Fire. Cooler temperatures and lighter winds are aiding their efforts. So far, the flames have singed nearly 15 square miles of land, the fire beginning on Halloween. I'm Jessica Stone. This is Fox News.
Lights, camera, fajita! Taste the sizzle at Chili's with our new fajita flavors, featuring the new all-star cast, the grilled stuffed avocado with southwestern shrimp topped with Santa Fe sauce, cilantro, limes, and queso fresco. Or the Monterey chicken, juicy chicken breast topped with barbecue sauce, mixed cheese, bacon, diced tomatoes, and chopped green onion, all served on a sizzling skillet with warm flour tortillas. Experience bold, sizzling fajita limited-time flavors only at Chili's. More life happens here, located at the Tumon Sands Plaza, 2nd floor.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your fix every day with the Points NFL Pick'em contest. Get the latest updates as we check out the past week's performance and break down the upcoming action. Get your game on by calling the hotline at 888-TALK or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome weekly prizes with a shot for your choice of a new GTA phone. The NFL Pick'em contest is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who will be back before Thanksgiving, so we understand. Thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon to Tall Tales. Before the break, we were taking a look at the editorials that have been running over the weekend, and we've got one more to go through. And also taking your calls at 888-8255. Got something on your mind, by all means, give us a call here. Or you can go on Facebook Live and type in your comments there. James Howard says all the money not claimed from the war claims should be given to charity to help the veterans. Well, if it's to help the veterans, it wouldn't be charity. It would be programs that have already been identified that have not been funded. Or it might go to funding more staff members for the governor's office. Or it might go to, picking up some, leasing a couple of those transport golf carts for Veterans Day. I know Veterans Day for All Souls Day, so that relatives of the veterans and the veterans themselves can attend Mass at the Veterans Cemetery. But it would just come back as Section 30 monies, unused for the war claims payments. They just did a set-aside. Also, let's see who else is. Gus says, so how's Lou and Josh doing in directing the operations of Guam and recovering Guam's debt? Well, I don't think they have to recover Guam's debt. They just have to manage the executive branch agencies that are under their direct control. They don't have to manage education. They don't have to manage power. They don't have to manage the hospital. Well, the governor has to manage the hospital. But they have to manage the line agencies. So how well are they doing? Yeah. That's why we remind you that 1 year from now, there will be an election for the mayors and for the senators. So we'll talk about that a little bit later this hour. Let's take a look at the Guam Daily Post editorial from yesterday. Kudos to robotics team. We must do more to support students. Congratulations to Guam's robotics team for a stellar performance in Dubai. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I want to read some excerpts from this. The competition, which was themed Ocean Opportunities, required competing alliances to clear the ocean by collecting pollutants, delivering them to processing areas, and removing their robots or collectors from the ocean. Collectors scored points by depositing pollutants onto 3 levels of centrally located processing barge. The 3 levels of a centrally located processing barge. Each level represents different degrees of processing: recovery, recycling, and reuse. Team Guam won 8 of 9 matches. They placed 5th in the overall competition and 3rd in the ranked playoffs. And this is a team of 10 high school students representing Guam. 191 competing teams from countries around the world. The Guam team was team captain Basil Garcia of Ucado High School, co-captain Lexis Sablan of Tiedzin High School, main driver Danny Morta of Simon Sanchez High School, driver Benjamin Kim of Tiedzin High School, team spokesperson Avinash Daraj, who's a homeschooled student, and 4 interns, Daniel Iriarte of George Washington High School, and Daryl Garcia, Lord Mabalot, and Eli Catalan, those 3 from Ucado High School, coached by Roderick Hidalgo. And now, if that's not interscholastic, I don't know what is. And congratulations to the students, their teachers, parents, and coaches. This competition and others like it illustrate the potential of our children, their ability to not just learn, but apply what they've learned to solve real-world problems. Imagine if we have a generation of Guamanians who are educated and well-versed in technology and the specific challenges we face on Guam. The Guam team's showing in Dubai also underscores the need for Guam's elected leaders to ensure that the Guam Department of Education is properly funded. GDOE needs more qualified and passionate teachers to educate and invigorate our youth. Our students need safe and clean learning environments, and teachers must have the tools to help teach the skills students need to succeed and grow. And that's not the whole editorial, but that's the highlights that I see of the editorial. But consider that such analytical smarts are available within public school bodies. Why should we not encourage students to apply themselves to other local problems like leadership, agency management, public priorities, GMH, DOE, and so on? If our public school students can excel abroad, like so many other Guamanians who attended public schools on Guam and are living productive, satisfied lives elsewhere, then why shouldn't we trust them with their honest opinions about what they see today, here? And are such advanced high school students staying on Guam or returning to Guam? Do we know? We know we have really smart and motivated students in our schools. It's not just an opportunity to say we need more budget for the schools. These are students who are excelling despite the shortcomings of DOE and the disruptions to other students' lives just because of life. But are we asking them, not the STEM students, but students who are involved in their own lives as members of the community and attending the public schools, do we ask them how to solve some of the problems that we have in school? Do we ask them how to improve education, public education, so that it becomes so that they are more prepared? Do we ask them to identify successful teachers that motivate them and communicate well with them, and those who do not? Do we ask them? That's kind of what I was getting at here. The editorial has me thinking, and I hope it has you thinking as well. It's good that the robotics team, it's very good that the robotics team did well. It just tells me that in areas such as robotics and other interests of our students, who are, after all, young, pre-voting age members of our society, that they can contribute more than they do. We just aren't listening to them. And so that's Zami Ikatni for this Monday. Am I stingy with the stars? Well, I want the editorial boards to really do better than they are. So I'll refrain for now. Did you see this in the PDN today? Interior grant will help fund solar power upgrade and solar power and upgrade school lights. It's a BEST program, Bringing Energy Savings to Schools, is a collaborative effort between the Guam Power Authority and the Guam Department of Education to find ways to reduce costs of energy. I mean, they could reduce cost of energy by just subsidizing the expenses that we have to pay. But this is what they're going to do with this money. $620,428 to install solar panels at the Guam Power Authority to offset the cost of their day-to-day operations. $620,000, so they don't have to bill themselves for the power. That's amazing. Now, they don't say, to go on, $586,771 for an LED lighting retrofit at Agata Johnston Middle School. And they're expected to realize an annual savings of $49,763. Well, that's good. So you put this in, and then $49,763 of savings per year. And that would pay off over like 11 years. That's how much. And that would be the cost of maybe a school aid, plus, health insurance and retirement, the overhead, about $35,000, or a junior teacher, an entry-level teacher. 11 years of one person is the savings from this amount of money for Agata Johnston Middle School. And then $522,616 to fund an LED lighting retrofit at Maria Udzoa Elementary School to save $38,946 a year. And so the payback is over 14 years. You can see why the government of Guam may not be putting money into things like this. How many millions of dollars would it be to save money over 10 years by retrofitting the lights? Over 11 years, it may be that the lights in the other schools will have to be replaced anyway. It's amazing, just amazing. But to reduce the cost to Guam Power Authority of their day-to-day operations, just take away some of it. So you can, it's going to be $55,000, $60,000 a year to Guam Power Authority. That wouldn't even be it'd be just one person in the office cost. It's just quite amazing. I just had to see that article today. The numbers it's a lot of money, and I'm happy that it's getting done. But in the grand scheme of things, it has to be system-wide. It has to be system-wide, or you're not going to get the kinds of savings. I think people already know what you can do, but if there's no budget for maintenance, or there's no budget to replace lights on an ongoing basis for the schools, we're not going to get those kinds of savings. But if we're not even putting money into it anyway. I got a call on line 1, and I've got another line ringing. Must have poked somebody's. Oh. Al, welcome to Tall Tales.
Good evening.
Hi, can you turn your radio down, please? We have an echo.
Off my boombox.
Yeah. It's like mirrors. Can you turn it down, please?
Yeah, about now.
That's much better. Thank you, Al.
Okay, yes, talking about savings.
Yes.
Well, for the school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? The government should do?
What's that?
Start off with a street light. You know, like have solar panels on the street light in the daytime, nighttime. That they will kick on for for the evening time. And I see that back here in the States too.
Oh, yeah, you do see that in the States. But, you know, they have maintenance programs in the States. So when you buy a battery of, let's say, 1,000 streetlights that are solar powered, when you buy them, they come with installation and maintenance for the life of the streetlights. You pay it one time, and you know those are going to come off your power bill, and you have that savings to go to paying a contractor to maintain those lights for the life, for some lifetime of, you know, the lights. But here we get typhoons, and down at Adelup they had street lights around the front open yard, and those were all set up with solar panels, and it was a great program, except it wasn't salt-proofed. And so they died within, 9 months. And nobody was around to fix them.
You know, that works, the solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, daytime, solar panels. Nighttime, when it goes dark, the street light will come on, and that was used. And the solar panel, kicked in.
Well, the solar panel recharges a battery. And the battery will hold a charge long enough to have the light on from dusk till dawn. And then if we get 3 days of really cloudy weather, the battery won't recharge and it won't come on. But there has to be somebody who's going to maintain those lights. So when it doesn't go on, somebody can take a look and see why it's not going on. But that's what happened. Once they started breaking down, nobody knew what to do with them, and so they installed it. Everybody said, "Hey, this is great," and then nothing happened. And as a demonstration project, it wasn't fair because they set them up right there where there was constant salt coming down on those lights. Now over the whole island, if you were going to have that kind of demonstration project, you'd have a battery on each pole. And that,
really?
Yeah, because the solar panel is only charging the battery, and the battery is powering the light. And so...
Well, how long does it last? From the evening, from 6 o'clock in the evening to what time in the morning does it come back on?
Yeah, when it goes dark, it's set up to come on when it's dark, and then it turns off when the sun comes up, and then it starts to charge because the solar panel is charging the battery. That's how that works. But under the current lights, right, all those LED lights that GPA's been putting in to replace the old lights are either 175 watts or 350 watts, because you see them. You can buy the bulbs in that size, and I've got a couple of them at home. They take power. They suck up a lot of power. But the LED lights, those LED panels are only, I think, about 20 watts. And so there's much, much less power being used by Guam Power Authority and charged to DPW and the government of Guam and the budget for the streetlights generally on Guam. And that's how that's worked out. So there's a big savings. Big savings, but those lights are expensive. But GPA maintains them. So instead of having solar power on those lights, It just happens to be easier. Or they could have those solar panels, but they could have solar panels and a battery, but it could be wired to hit 10 or 15 lights. So that's another way to do it. It might be easier that way, but we have to rely on GPA to do things the most reliable way.
Okay.
But,
hey, I got a question to ask you.
Sure.
Why don't you open another talk show again earlier? They're ready to give you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
At least a couple of hours or, a day.
Well, that's a possible. Let's wait for Bob to get back because I'm Bob's substitute now, so I wouldn't want to go to another show and then have nobody available to sit in for Bob.
No, after Bob comes back and and you can get situated on the same station, how much money you need to start off?
Oh, I don't know how much it takes. I guess now that you've mentioned it, and I know Ray listens to the show or he goes back and he reviews what we're talking about.
Yeah.
He'll be the one. It's up to him. It's a business decision. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, no, it's not.
Ramon. Give it to him. Oh,
Well,
really?
and you're not related to me, right? I didn't pay you anything to say this, right?
No.
Al? Well, thank you very much, Al.
Contact me. Give him my number.
Okay. Yeah. The number, okay. Well, thank you very much, Al, for that call and for your comments and support. I've got line 2, right? First? Okay. Line 2, you're on the air. Tall Tales.
How's it going?
How's the day? Going fine. This is James.
Yes. As a renewables and a conservation engineer, I think there's something maybe a little bit off on some of these projects with pricing. I say that because I have a general formula that I go by about the cost of a project versus the payback. And generally speaking, if it's more than a 5 to 7 year payback, it's probably not a really great investment. And I've got wind turbines that we put in. We did the pilot project for Saipan Southern High School in Saipan in 2007, and that wind turbine's still operational. That wind turbine still runs their entire science lab over there, plus the school's emergency backup water system.
Great.
And it's never had problems or issues. And quite frankly, even though there have been seen in my public school employees trained about how to bring it down and secure it, that it's one of the folding tilt towers that can be brought down in case we have a typhoon.
Right.
Most of the time, it's been left up, and it hasn't sustained any damage.
Well, that's really good
Same thing
news.
for solar modules. Any engineer that knows a little bit about what he's doing can design a solar system that will withstand 200 mile an hour wind speed. In fact, the Department of Public Works requirement is 170 miles an hour. So adding another 30 miles an hour onto that is not a big deal. But some of these lighting projects, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to qualify this by saying that I have not witnessed any of the plans, they sound extremely expensive. And to me, they sound extremely expensive. I mean, a 13-year payback?
Yeah, that's what it jumped out at me.
Yeah, that needs to be looked at, and I don't want to say that there's anything foul play going on, but that sounds extremely expensive, and I find those types of paybacks prohibitive. If this was an outright federal project like USDA or U.S. Department of Energy, et cetera, those types of proposals would probably not be approved for a number of different reasons. But I think somebody needs to sit down and take a look at these and say, whoa, wait a minute, why is this so expensive? because this is not new cutting-edge technology that just came out on the market 6 months ago, okay? These are products that have been available and on the marketplace and in common use for almost a decade now. LED lighting is not something that just happened 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yes, it's just like everything else, it's under continuous and constant update, and it gets better and better and better. But I really think somebody should put the brakes on this a little bit, sit down and take a look at it and go, wait a minute, why is this so expensive? And if it can be justified, of course it can be justified. But I just have a hard time seeing those types of dollars and that type of a payback, especially for us out here in the Pacific Islands where our cost of electricity is so much more expensive than it is stateside.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times stateside, a lot of these projects, it really is, it's really a kind of a no-brainer to the wrong side. It's just the dollars just don't make sense. I mean, this is expensive, and it's going to be a 12 to 15-year payback, and by that time, the warranties have expired. The company that did the installation may or may not still be in business to be able to support it and stand behind it, even if there's some type of a service contract that's built into the project.
Mm-hmm.
That's just too long.
It's actually beyond the expected service life of the fixtures.
Yes, that is correct.
And so why would you have a payoff a payoff period that exceeds the expected lifetime of the stuff you're putting in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if a lot of our local purchasing agencies, whether that's on a territory government level, DPW, or whether it's GDOE, or look, I can tell you right now that you can sit down with a manufacturer who's is bidding through their local authorized dealer, and they can sit down and they can negotiate things that are to the advantage of the project owner, whether that's the school or a college or Department of Public Works or GPA. You can sit down and you can get with these manufacturers through their authorized agents that are bidding these projects, and you can negotiate service contracts. You can negotiate extended warranties. The solar system that was just installed at low-income housing over in CNMI,
mm-hmm.
A lot of those solar modules, and look, every place out here is going to have salt exposure. There's not any place that's more than 10 miles from water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all considered marine environment, okay?
Yeah, but Adelup is really marine environment.
Well, there's bad and then there's worse, exactly, and I agree with you on that. I mean, we live in the rust capital of the world.
Yeah, but those lights that Adelup were put in, when I looked at them, they didn't look like they had anything besides the normal powder coat paint.
They were not marine grade. They were not prepped for salt environment.
Nope.
Not even close to it. Okay, and to be quite frank with you, the quality on those was really not very good. Those should have never been considered.
But those were
awarded.
And that was done with interior money.
Right. But the even though it was done, certain projects, depending on how they're written, it may be federally funded, but it may come down to local purchasing determination. So that's a case where the federal agencies may step in and they may make a recommendation, but they can't just say, well, no, we're not going to fund this project because that's an inferior product. It's like, okay, it's your money. If that's what you want to spend it on, fine, go ahead. But 3 years from now, don't come back and ask us for more money because it's totally rotted and needs to be replaced. But yeah, some of the solar modules that we've installed over for USDA over in the CNMI have 20-year manufacturer's warranties.
Wow.
Okay. So, and they know full well that they're being installed in a quote-unquote marine environment. So there's a lot of things that can be done that are not being addressed to make these projects have ultimate life, to have longer life expectancies than, what you would normally get, 5-year manufacturer's warranty or whatever.
That's why.
There's a lot of.
That's why I wanted to bring this up. That's why I wanted to bring this up, because the point really is, if these standards are not being imposed now, then that's why Vince Areola is over at Department of Public Works across the street. Because now that he's in, he can do that. He can implement, he can bring our standards up and bring us into the 21st century, for goodness sake, because we're still using 1986 standards around here on many of these purchases.
And it gets rid of the black eye factor. What I mean by that is somebody says, okay, well, all right, we're going to do this project and it's federally funded and blah, 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 blah. And then we have a typhoon come through and it's all damaged, it's all destroyed, or, 24 to 36 months later, like those lights down in Adelup, and they're rotted and they're not functioning, and it's basically just a waste. And then all of the naysayers have got all the ammo that they need to say, see, we tried to tell you, this is a waste. It's not going to work. It's junk. It's not going to work for us out here.
Yeah, or we remember.
It was because it was incorrectly spec'd and or it was inferior quality to start with.
Mm-hmm. And we have to break this syndrome of spending large amounts of money for stuff that's just going to rust away. James, thank you so much for your call this afternoon. And there's some great examples of what's going on in the Northern Marianas that we shouldn't be so proud that we can't follow those same footsteps. It's like, oh, if it's happening in Saipan, it can't be better than us because we're more advanced than Saipan. Well, last time I was in Saipan, it looked like they were stealing a march on us. Not like we're in any kind of a competition, but why not?
Yep.
When something works, why not make it work here?
We're all neighbors, and we're all relatively close together, and we all have the same weather and the same rust and corrosion and storm issues. And hey, if somebody is doing something that works, we can learn from that and we can share that and spread it around. There's nothing shameful about that. That's smart.
That's why we have elections every 2 and 4 years. Because if it's not happening already, then it should be made to happen. Thank you again, James, for your call.
You bet. Appreciate it.
Okay. Let's take our break here at 5:37. We have a break, and then we'll come back with more of your calls and talking about what's going on in the world today here on Tall Tales.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, Mom, Dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Hulu is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla. Try their featured special for November. Canadian pizza. Homemade pizza dough topped with marinara sauce. 3 cheese blend. Canadian bacon. Spanish chorizo. Peppers, onions, and cilantro pesto. Available in Agana and in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We got a couple of comments online. Gus is saying Guam is mostly cloudy. Unlike Las Vegas, it rains once or twice a year and is always sunny and hot. Solar panels are a bad idea. I don't know. A friend of mine, Smug Wimp, is he's got his house is covered in solar panels, the roof of the house, and so he's shading the roof, the cement roof, from the direct solar energy, and he's producing more energy than he uses in the course of a day. And so there's something going on that's right there. I guess it's just the number of panels. And then he says the caller is right, but there may be a performance terms agreement that covers maintenance. And you're right, there may be. But these are in the specifications when we go out looking for someone to do these projects. And that hasn't been upgraded. It's the same GSA buyers, and we need to overhaul that government procurement system. Francis patiently waiting on line 3. Francis, welcome to Tall Tales.
Thank you, Darren. You know, that was nice. What's his name, last caller?
James.
James had some really great engineering recommendations, but I think it's a little bit too late because if I'm not mistaken, stand corrected, the GPA manager is getting ready to sign a contract with this Korean company tomorrow, and I would have loved to have maybe legislate have a couple more public hearings, you know. So just like James and a few others can can testify and hopefully somebody will. But then again, I don't think it's possible because I think they have already made up their minds as to what. You know what? We were looking at there was a report here on GPA's fines from federal EPA or something like that for nonconformity or noncompliance with. Can you fill me in a little bit on that? Is that how true is that? Because I'm hearing millions of dollars of fines, you know, and then maybe that was probably what set off this. Let's get rid of this and get a contractor in here that knows what he's doing, and let's do it professionally, regardless of how much it's going to cost, you know. But then in the long run, we'll be able to avoid any federal fines for noncompliance. Are you with me with this? Or?
Yes. Actually, if you think back to the 1970s, when the environmental regulations first started with the U.S. EPA, they gradually rolled in nationwide standards for emission controls. And it was using some of the California standards, and then they applied them gradually nationwide. And it had to do with emissions from car exhaust and industrial pollutants. And so lots of chemicals that were being dumped in water were being restricted. But locally, one of the most important ones as far as GPA was the emissions from the smokestacks for our base load units. And those base load units were they were operated. We got them from the Navy, from that were installed back in right after World War II, and then we added on with some that were the technology of the day in the 1950s and 60s, and then those were replaced generally, and then we went to private maintenance and operation. So by the 80s and 90s and more recently. So their maintenance would be handled as part of a general contract. And each time we did that, it was greater capacity, but better maintenance and actually somewhat lower cost. But each time that the U.S. EPA would upgrade its standards, then the emissions, we had to meet new emission standards, and we were really behind. Most years we were behind, and so we would put our improvements in place just ahead of being fined. But they would warn us, and we would just get it in before the before either replace units or retrofit them or put in scrubbers or whatnot. So the latest round of increased or tightened standards were you have to burn low sulfur fuel. You can't burn any more of the bunker oil unless you have these expensive scrubbers. And those have been in place for about 10 years. And we've been getting waivers. Guam has been getting waivers. GPA has been getting waivers. And at the same time, the newer units coming on have been more efficient and easier to scrub the pollutants out.
Darryl, in comparison to automotive, they on federal EPA standards, there's installed from the factory under federal regulation catalytic converter that what happens is, if I'm not mistaken, it converts monoxide to carbon dioxide. So I was wondering how this new generation power plant is going to operate if there are going to be so-called pollution or unburned stuff, or monoxide, in the air. I was wondering, maybe James has some knowledge of this and maybe more of this new generation proposal, because I just couldn't understand damn word, everything was so fast, so set up so fast that they're trying to convince the community public about the new generation system, but I just can't get it.
This has been in the works for years. This has been planned for a long time. They knew they needed to put in this type of technology in order to be one step ahead of U.S. EPA to meet the new standards, and just in time to avoid the fines. Because we should have had this put in several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and they were saying, oh, but we have to search for a new location because we don't want it down there in Petey where it's cramped and also subject to tidal wave or typhoon damage.
Exposure to elements.
Right. The ocean coming in.
All right.
And so they had to find a location, and then they found the location. They calculated that there was enough of the wastewater diversion from different places on the island to go through that location so that they would have cooling water, and then they wanted a combined cycle, but also to use possibly 2 different kinds of fuel. So
my last question is. Are we getting any help from Interior, or is this going to be on the bond borrowing market again, and then sooner or later?
It's all on us. It's all on us. The Interior gives us a little money here and a little money there, but this is much bigger. This is right? Oh yeah, it's $600 million. Something like this has to be, and actually we're committing to pay for it, but the company that won the bid is the one that has to go out and get the money. But this is what everyone really needs to know is we need to have reliable power, no matter what the renewables looks like, and no matter how much everyone is, not everyone, but so many people are installing their own capacity. They still are going. The military and the government of Guam. And the big businesses that are not otherwise organized to provide their own power, they're going to be customers of Guam Power Authority. And by and large, most homes on the island are not set up to go completely off the grid. Some are, but it's not a large number. 2%, 3% of all the homes on Guam. They depend on GPA, and that customer base is sufficient to at today's rates is sufficient to finance the construction and operation of that new power plant, and they can take the old ones offline. The old ones down in Petey can all be scrapped, and the new plant will work better with new technologies that can come online, but it's still predicated on a 19 or 23 cent per kilowatt hour that Guam is currently willing to pay for power. all the renewables, the savings that you would get with renewables, all the savings you would get with a new power plant, those are all attractive. The new power plant is an attractive alternative, and renewables are attractive and economic under 23 cents a kilowatt hour.
My guess is the Navy will be building their own power plant. Am I?
No. They want this power plant built. They don't want to be
they're part of the.
Yeah, they will build their own emergency units to make sure that they have redundancy for emergency for
and stuff. Okay.
Sure, but they're for operational needs, but they're not going to have their own power system. They want to be a customer of GPA, and they want to have their own backups ready to go in case they need. But they don't want to run their own power systems.
Oh, by the way, that transformer that they were talking about earlier this morning about transporting that thing, and with all the controversial issues, contributing factors, road, and all that. You know what? Me and Bob this morning were talking, and I said, why don't they just get a couple of those Chinooks, those heavy, and just pick it up the boat and just transfer it, and just drop it off where instead of discussing all these issues and harrying. I think they're getting ready to set up a new contract for. I don't know when the hell was that. Well, the Navy should have been involved here and just pick up that damn transformer and just drop it off at that location, that site, right, proposed site, and just get it over with. Instead of trying to figure out all kinds of mechanical crap.
Just think, we're going to have roads that are going to carry 60-ton tanks and not get torn up.
Once in a lifetime.
No, 60-ton tanks when the Marines get here. They're going to need to roll those up and down.
We got the heavy equipment engineering battalion's monster Chinooks that they pick up the damn destroyer of the water, man, and dry dock it,
But they don't have them here. They'd have to bring them here. And we're not in a position to ask the military to bring their equipment because we have a civil engineering issue. Just straight from the bridge.
Brother. Hey, we'll talk some more about this tomorrow. Thanks for taking my call.
Always good to talk with you, Francis, and you. And so it's 5:52, and it's time to take our last break of the day. Thank you, Francis, for the call. Real Joe, take it away.
Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come, join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
Talk with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And here's your last chance to get in. 888-8255 is the telephone number. Thank you to the callers that came in over the last little while here. Gus online saying, solar energy for Guam is a power plant. Based on the wattage needed would require land and deforestation. Imagine the size. Las Vegas has 2 that you can put a village inside it. That's right. There are other places in the world that have oodles of land. We have badlands, right? We have those badlands up in Malolo, behind Malolo, and those stripped off hills that we want to have reforested. There's lots of land like that, but not that much that's going to be able to. There has to be a mix. 20 years ago we were talking about ocean power, whether wave power or tide power or turbines set down in the air in the ocean where the current sweeps around the island. But those technologies were investigated in Hawaii, and they didn't amount to much. And the engineering, of course, is all there. The U.S. Department of Energy has gone deep into the research of these technologies, and they haven't panned out, not like solar and wind. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? And so that was the headline on today's PDN is 100% renewable energy goal doable. And Eloy Hara's letter to the Post today, governors shouldn't sign renewable energy bill. And he's saying that the government already delegated the management of power to the CCU. And why should they mandate now the goals of the Guam Power Authority? They don't know, and they shouldn't do it. This morning, during Ray Gibson's show, I made a comment about this very subject, and basically it was like this. Whatever the legislature mandates, if it's not what the CCU had in mind, they have an option. It's like a free play. They can go forward, and without regard to how it would raise rates, they can contract for the installation of additional capacity of renewables. And when people start to squawk, they can say, well, folks, it's the legislature telling us to do this, even though it's redundancy, and even though the renewables that we would be buying is in addition to the combined cycle plant. We have to have the combined cycle plant in order to be a good, stable provider of electricity to all of our other customers, besides those who are interested in these renewable technologies, all customers. And we have to have the capacity to handle everyone, so when the activists are quiet or systems break down, there is a power company that you can purchase power from that has capacity. And, if you want to have 100% redundancy in recyclables, we can do that, as long as you're willing to pay for 2 systems that have the same capacity. And then just mothball one. Yes, there'll be some savings from not having to pay for fuel, but you will pay capital cost and maintenance on 2 systems. And that's kind of the point that Eloy Hara was making. We have about 3 minutes to go here, and I just wanted to bring up something that's kind of silly here. New bills dip into fiscal year 2019 surplus budget. 3 recently introduced bills would pull $4.3 million from unappropriated general fund balance for fiscal 2019. The administration has touted a surplus of more than $20 million from last fiscal year. About $10 million has already been mandated to go to GMH. And now, Bill 228-35, introduced by Senator Joseph Augustine, co-sponsored by Talina Nelson and Tina Munya Barnes, would pull the largest chunk of that, $2.9 million, to help with the construction of Simon Sanchez High School. And then another bill, $400,000 for the Department of Agriculture, and another bill, $1 million for Guam Housing Corporation. And the governor says, even a single year of revenues above expenses may not result in a, quote, surplus overall. Well, duh. you know, how can there be a surplus? Unless you tell me that all of the fiscal 2019 revenues that were transferred to other uses, transferred from one appropriation to another, from one use to another, were those all returned and all of the allotments released in full for fiscal 2019? If they really have, then we really have a surplus. Otherwise, it's just unreleased money and revenues that continue to come in after the end of the fiscal year. It's one of those terms of art. It's not a true surplus. It's a surplus because I said it's a surplus. But it's not really a surplus. It's just something that we can play with as a concept because we shortchanged agencies last year. Well, it's just about 6 o'clock, and it's time for me to go. I'm Darrell Taggarty. I've been sitting in for Bob Klitzkie today. He'll be back before Thanksgiving. I'll be here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And Ray Gibson will be in this very chair tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., so I recommend you tune in then. I'll be here tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon and for checking us out on Facebook Live. Have a very good evening, everyone.